Amen. Good evening once again. Today is June 14th, 2023. This is recording 535, entitled, All That I Have is Yours. All that I have is yours. What a wonderful, wonderful reception the heart would make, or it makes, whenever anyone says, go ahead, take it, it's yours. Have all that you want, it's yours. Eat to your fill, it's yours. Don't be concerned, it's yours. Can you imagine having the voice of the universe, the creator of the universe, saying, you are my beloved child. All that I have is yours. That should be enough to cause us to just be filled or overwhelmed with joy, to just be run over with joy. All that I have. And the reason that we cannot accept that is possibly we have not come to a realization that all that God has is ours. I was just given some news a few moments ago that the Southern Baptist Convention just expelled two churches from their from their committee, from their, not committee, but from their organization. One of those churches I know has had in excess of 23,000 members in the church itself. But they were expelled because they had women in leadership roles. And I'm just beginning to, just really it's setting in on me just how misled, corrupt, off the rails, you name it, Christianity is. And it makes me appreciate the message that I have more so, even more so, just more valuable. I mean, you could probably just denote some of the disappointment in my voice, and yet I know that I should not be disappointed because that has nothing to do with the gospel. Those are just people that are doing what they believe. They're picking and choosing. They do not know that God has said, all that I have is yours. A new commandment I give you. Love ye one another as I have loved you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Show forth the love of God that I have placed in your heart. And then we see stuff, and we look at our world around us. And I was just looking yesterday and coming to a place of understanding that look at just how corrupt the world is as it goes to and fro with the slogan, in God we trust. How the court system looks for ways to give namesakes the type of punishment that is befitting of the namesake rather than the law. And then I look and I realize, what a mighty God I do serve. One who has said, it matters not what people do or say. You must realize that I love you with all my heart, and all that I have is thine. Be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. These are some of the things we grew up with. And now, in a sense, we're being forced to prove them because we realize that the world is not fair. That though the justice system is not fair, the employment system is not fair, the welfare system is not fair, opportunities, they just aren't fair. And yet we do have a way of escape if we can prove it. For just saying these things and walking around and repeating the love of God does not make it fair. It just shows that it has gotten our attention. But it's up to us to prove these things. And we must walk in this mess, this chaos. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was void, without shape and form, and chaos did fill the earth. We're living in that time right now. They built unto themselves a tower of Babel that they may reach the heavens. And the church has responded by explaining that to us, that was an event that happened long ago. And yet we can look out right now and see that man is building a system, a tower, that will reach into the heaven and will disregard anything that God stands for. That tower will go forth, and that tower will do whatever it says and call it in the name of God. And yet, we know it's not so. All that I have is yours. What will it take to prove that to yourself? At times in this life stream, we have what has been called daydreams. You know what I mean, daydreams. Times when we can see ourselves complete with health, finances, freedom, no worries. Seeing life as we know it should be lived and enjoyed. Then that moment ends. And it ends with us returning to what we call reality. What we have been called, what we have been taught to call reality. Hustle and bustle, the grind. All the while, something within us, a little voice is constantly saying, this not ought be. This should not be. And we know it should not be. For what parent would take their child and place them in an environment and give them no instruction, no guidance, no supervision, and just let them be? That's the voice within us. It's saying this should not be. And instead of us accepting that voice is the voice of God saying, this is not what I intended for you, we're simply stuck with, this should not be. What can I do to fix this? Well, we need to accept the fact that the voice is speaking to us the truth. And the moment we agree with the voice, and I mean truly agree with the voice, our lives must change. Why must our lives change? Because our outer world is a reflection of our inner belief. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So when, instead of simply saying this ought not be, we must make a move in the direction of ought not be, and that is to agree with that voice that spoke to us. We must follow that voice. We must find a way to connect with that voice, no matter how futile or how filled with obstruction the path may seem to be. We must continue. We must continue as the one who set out to search for gold, the 49ers. They went through all type of peril and mayhem and enemy onslaught, and they just kept going because they believed that there was something else. What did they believe? They believed that there was gold in them their hills. Therefore, the agreement that they had within themselves had to lead them to where the golden vein was. It had to. Why? Because they believed that there was gold. As a man believeth, so is he. Let's for a moment just stop and think about this. In the creation, as we call it, of the universe, there must have been one entity, just one. And that one entity created or brought to in existence that which it believed to be satisfying for its own sake. So therefore, everything was made from the substance or the thinking or the believing of that which brought it into existence. Now, bringing into existence, you would never bring anything into existence that would fight against itself, that would deter itself, that would rot, that would grow old, that would deteriorate, that would be impoverished, famished. So think about it. If God is God, then everything made was made from God, by God, for God. So therefore, how can we have anything that is negative to what God is when all things were made by him and all things were made for his pleasure? So therefore, we were brought into existence for his pleasure. So therefore, how can we have things such as pneumonia, arthritis, sugar diabetes, cancer, poverty, famine? How can we have those things if a creator brought us into existence and endowed us with the characteristics and substance that it is? You see, the voice is saying, this ought not be. Why? Because all that I have is thine. Well, if all that it has is mine, how can I have something that is not its? How can I have something that does not belong to it? I read a story just last night that just kind of rocked my boat. With two stories. One was, there was a lady who was rich, well-to-do, she and her husband, and they had a beautiful mansion. They had servants, they had money, they had all kinds of things. But the lady wished that she didn't have this huge property to take care of, the dust and whatnot. And she constantly talked of one day when she didn't have that to take care of. Well, in a few years, her husband passed away, and through some bad investments, she lost all that she had, that they had, and she was forced to move in with her sister. And guess where she ended up living? She ended up living on the third floor of her sister's house in one room, with all of her belongings basically in a trunk. Look at how that turned out for her. For the thing that she prayed for, see, that's what she got. The second thing was a lady who was trying to persuade her uncle, who was a minister, that she had found contact with God, and that a lot of the things that he was teaching his congregation or believing in, she wanted to prove to him that they were incorrect. And she invited him to come to her home to visit. And they were going to have a nice conversation, and she was going to explain some of those things. And the night before he was to arrive, and he was to arrive early the next morning, she came down with a cold that they said it was so brutal that she could barely breathe. And she struggled all through the night with that cold, and she awakened the next morning, and it had gotten no better. And she just was really, really worried as to what she would say to her uncle, her relative, I think it was the uncle. How could she explain this ministry, this revelation, with her nose all big and swollen and eyes out, and she said, and there came a knock at the door. And she went to the door and grabbed the doorknob, and she said, God, what shall I tell him? How can I explain this? And she said, a voice spoke back to her and says, there's no need to explain what you don't have. And she turned the doorknob, and she said when she opened the doorknob, all symptoms were gone. And they went in and had a nice visit. You see, that voice is speaking to us to not only just to say, oh, woe is me. Oh, woe are you. This should not be. The voice is saying, no, this is not what I have for you. But are we willing? Are we willing to follow that voice? We must follow it because it spoke to get our attention. And you say, but I don't know how. And I say, yes, you do. But I don't know where it is. I don't know where it came from. And I say, yes, you do. Where did you hear it? And you say, it came from within me. Well, that's a good place to start, don't you think? Go within and ask, as if expecting an appropriate answer for help, understanding what its intent and message is. It's like I jokingly talk about something I'm serious about the little Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland, and Alice is chasing the Mad Hatter. Yeah, you have to follow the voice. And yes, it is sometimes frightening. It's discouraging. It's disappointing. It seems to never really just sit you down and just shower you in peace. But nevertheless, you can't give up. Why? Because it got your attention. You know that this ought not be. And you are leaving the world of obstacles and negative suggestions to follow the voice. For God says, it shall surely speak. You follow it long enough, it will speak. You will hear a voice behind you saying what? This is the way. Walk ye in it. It is the voice that is inviting you to commune with it. Why commune if it is not a resolve for your unhappiness? Why does it want to talk to you if it's not going to fix? And the question is, we must constantly ask ourselves, how can I lose myself from this outer world? How can I let go? And we begin to look at many of the things that we're not willing to let go of. Could that be keeping us from the joy that would encompass all of the things that we hold value? It can invite us, but we must believe that it's not just a passing thought, reminding us that we are separated from God. But it is a voice telling us you are not separated. It is the still small voice of the Creator that has come to lead us from our self-imposed incarceration. Yep, self-imposed. Because of the belief in a suggestion that is available to humanity. If we believe that there is an opponent if we believe that there is a suggestion that someone out there can fall prey to, I'm beginning to understand why we are told to only believe that God exists. And regardless of what we see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, we will constantly say only God exists. For today, as I was on my way here, I'm going down the highway, and as I'm going down the highway, I just happened to see a thumb sticking out, and I looked over, and it was one of my friends. And I immediately hit the brake with the voice saying, look at him. He all nasty and dirty. He probably stinks. But it was too late. I had already hit the brake. And sure enough, he got in the car, and guess what he was? Nasty, dirty, and smelly. I had to crack my window. And I was like, could you have passed him up? Could you have? But you know what kind of shape he was in, because this man is really, really hard for him to get around. And he got in and began to tell me what he had been doing. Yeah, I was back there in the back of that place, back there cleaning out all that stuff, and I looked at his clothes. I said, oh, man, that's fresh dirt. Did I do the right thing? I believe I did. If I counted that car to be more valuable than he. But you know, I was tempted to believe that he was less valuable than my car. But nonetheless, I asked him where he was going, and he was telling me, and I was going to take him. Then he said, no, just let me out right here. I'll be right here, and somebody else will come on, and I'll go the rest of the way, because we were going in different directions. But the bottom line is, look at the things that we hold dear, sacred, that we look over, and we have put ourselves in positions to where we are suffering, and we may not even know that we are causing the suffering. We have made ourselves slaves to limitations suggested to us by the material plane. We have made ourselves slaves. And you say, well, how do I escape? By realizing that the thought was really the voice of freedom. This ought not be. All that I have is thine. There we should probably insert the question, how? How can I escape? How can I understand what you're saying? Because I hold dear a lot of the possessions. I even try to impress people with some of my possessions, that I'm doing okay, that I'm not just out here, and that's not, but the bottom line is that important? If the voice is saying, oh, wonder of wonders, what I could show you, if you would only listen. What is your plan, O voice? And the voice may not answer. And yet we know we heard it. So we continue to seek after it, to search after it. And it may take minutes. It may take hours. It may take days, weeks, months, and years. But we know we heard it. Follow me as I follow Christ. For I am thy Father. I created you. What does it take to commune with the creator of the universe? And once you make contact, who will believe you? Who? Well, I must show the love of God. Do you not realize that to show the love of God, means that if you love God, for me, this is what it means. If I love God so much, I don't have to tell you. I'm always constantly thinking about God, so therefore I'm going to always do what God would do, and you will recognize that I'm not selfish. You will recognize that there was no ego. You will recognize that there was no self-importance put into this, that you would rate me higher than the average man. But the bottom line is, what does it take to get there? For just repeating the voice saying this ought not be, how is that working? But the voice is inviting. Why? Because we keep meeting at times like this, that we may understand a little bit better on how to get in touch with the voice. And it shows us pictures. I have created all things, and I saw that everything was good. How can I have created everything good and you see something bad? We must be allowed to pierce the veil. And the only way is to offer ourselves in such a way that the veil does not continue to hide anything from us. For he says, come. Come in whatever manner, what shape you're in, and I will give you rest. Hearing the voice causes us to repeatedly seek, that we might continually seek until the voice becomes so prominent that it will speak, as Jesus says, it is no longer I, or Paul says, it's no longer I that live, and Jesus says, it's the Father that doeth the works. The voice has come to reveal to us the awesomeness of our being, that we are loved and we have been sent into expression, that the Creator, that our Father be glorified. Therefore, if we open our mouths, then it's the Father that's speaking. Therefore, the Father is glorifying itself. It is not that we are glorified for knowing the Father. It is the Father glorifying itself through its expression called I. We learn to trust its answers, to depend on its guidance, and understand we have actually been created with purpose. What is that purpose? The purpose is that the Father be glorified in expression. We begin to realize that success has always been our destiny. That it has now come that we should recognize that we are the expressed image and likeness of all that it is. In other words, it is appearing as, instead of wearing it as a shield and a buckler. It is appearing as. We listen for it being greater than we are, and it has already gone before and prepared a table of plenty. Just remember now, that which created all things had to have available with itself all things to create. You know, a lot of times when we create something, I don't, where's my hammer? Where's my saw? Oh, I didn't buy enough wood, and we have to go back to the store. We have to remember that God is not like that. So therefore, when God sent us into expression, he actually is sending us equipped with all that it is. And therefore, it has never to reach back to get anything, because all that it is, we are, and all that it has is ours. I think you just saw a tiny portal open, and hopefully it stayed open. But within that portal is everything. All that I have is yours, and all that you have, I have given. All that I am, you are, and all that is, I am. There cannot be a separation there. How then do I submit myself? How do I sacrifice that which I think I am, that I may see all that really is? That we are to enjoy all that is and be concerned for nothing. I think I'll repeat that. That we are to enjoy all that is and be concerned for nothing. There's that daydream. Don't let it close. Don't let it close, because as we continue to realize that I am enjoying all things and I am concerned for nothing, then I must meet with that in detail. I must meet that observation that I just saw in my imagination. I must see it. I must hold it high. And as I hold it high, I must meet with it, because as a man thinketh, so is he. Just think, from what we thought was a passing thought was actually the greatest gift that could be received. It is not supposed to be this way. Then let's change it. Come unto me, all that labor and are heavy laden, and I, the still small voice, invite you to come and receive that which is yours. Remember, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. All that I have is thine. Surrender. God bless.